Good afternoon, passengers, and welcome aboard AstroloTea Airlines. We are now preparing for departure, but as we head towards this total solar eclipse in Leo, today's flight will be riddled with unexpected detours and emotional upheavals. In just a moment, some passengers will be removed from this aircraft and forcefully escorted onto unmarked vessels. For these passengers, their new itineraries, including their arrival times and final destinations, are still unknown. Other passengers are now being upgraded to first class, so congratulations to them. We do appreciate your flexibility, as you do not have a choice in the matter. It is eclipse season. Please keep your seatbelt fastened as we anticipate tremendous amounts of turbulence and non-stop rough air. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Tea service is beginning now. Hello, and welcome to AstroloTea with Aliza Kelly. I am your host, your witchy, spiritual, wacky friend, Aliza Kelly, and I am so glad that you are here. This is your weekly brew. I serve it to you hot and fresh every single Monday, and the theme of the week is solar storm, and the top 3 things you need to know are, number 1, hello friends, it is officially eclipse season, and it is a big one with a total solar eclipse in Leo blasting us with its powerful, haunting, shocking, unexpected energy. That's the storm. Number 2, eclipses open new doors by slamming others shut, which means we should all be preparing for lots of changes, big changes, small changes, and that is going to be naturally whiplashing us into oblivion. And number 3, whatever happens now is rooted in fate, destiny, and karma, which means it cannot be manipulated, changed, negotiated, renegotiated. This is bigger than us. This is about destiny. If you are new here, welcome. Hi, hello, welcome to our community. We have been waiting for you. What a week to join us. Of course, if you have been with us, hello, welcome back, community. I'm glad you're here because holy shit, what a week we have in store. Now, just FYI, I serve on Mondays and Wednesdays. On Mondays, I will always have your weekly brew to get you set up for the week ahead. So I'm going to spill your horoscope, and we're going to talk about journal prompts, and we're going to pull a tarot card, and we are going to figure out what the hell is up in the sky right now. And on Wednesdays, I am also serving. Yes, the tea is piping hot on Wednesdays. We always have a tea party. And this is when we deep dive into different aspects of astrology, no pun intended, that bring it all to life. All of our episodes are available audio, video, wherever you get your podcasts. So be sure to follow and subscribe right now so you never, ever miss a delicious brew. Also, a reminder, I just announced my October tour for spooky season, and it's already selling fast. Yes, I will be in Chicago and Minneapolis and New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco, Boston. Oh my goodness, she's a jet setter. And I will obviously be spilling the hottest and most paranormal tea with our community in person. Listen, it's not scary, but it is very spooky. You must know the difference. And every show is going to have a costume contest, and maybe we're going to have special guests, and we're going to have lots and lots of amazing live astrology and spooky season tricks and treats. And with these shows selling out, be sure to get your ticket in advance right now at alizakelly.com/events. That is alizakelly.com/events, and I will see you there. Before we dive in, I just want to say thank you for being here, listening, tuning in, watching, absorbing on this journey with us. Take a moment, if you haven't yet, to rate our show 5 stars. Of course, review, follow, subscribe, and if you have any questions about anything at all, drop them in the comments, or you can even include them in your Apple review, your 5-star Apple review, because I read everything like a real sicko, and I will be sure to answer your questions in a future episode, or maybe even in this episode right now. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, enough of my yapping. We have a delicious piping hot cup of AstroloTea with your name on it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, and then it's time to sip. Hello, welcome, my beautiful, beautiful community to AstroloTea, to your Monday weekly brew. It is I, Aliza, your host, your friend, and holy moly macaroni. It is a week. It's an eclipse week. This week we have a total solar eclipse in Leo, and we haven't had a total solar eclipse in Leo since 2017. August 21st, 2017. I remember this one so fucking well. Back at that last total solar eclipse in Leo, I was working as an administrative assistant at a horrible job in Midtown Manhattan, and I stepped out of the horrible office onto the streets of Midtown Manhattan, which you could also argue horrible, horrible job, horrible office, horrible neighborhood. And I basked in the solar rays of this eclipse, which is frankly very controversial because some more superstitious astrologers will tell you to literally avoid the eclipse at all costs, like to duck and cover, to avoid its baleful rays. But I went out, I went out with my eclipse glasses and I really soaked it up. I really was so aware. And I remember being so physically aware of what was going on in my life, what was working at that time. My private astrology practice was really starting to build through word of mouth. I can't even remember if I really started posting on social media yet. I don't think I had. I was definitely starting to get traction in my workshops, though. I was being asked to do workshops locally, but I was like, how will I ever transition to this full time? How will I ever get out of the ties that bind? How will I ever afford to make a living out of being an astrologer? Well, fast forward to a few months after this particular eclipse, and the company that I was working at closed, shut down. So naturally, I was out of a job. Everyone was out of the job. And in that moment, I decided, I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I was going to give it a try. Because if it wasn't, then when would it be that I fully committed? And here we are now, AstroloTea, 9 years later. Eclipses. Am I right? Well, friends, we are back at it. We are back in that eclipse magic. We are back with another total solar eclipse in Leo for the first time in so many years. And eclipses are such big deals. Yes, they are. And they have such tremendous implications. They are tied to stories and timelines and destiny and karma and just like, the biggest and baddest and most important narratives in our lives. NBD. What can I say? With all of that in mind, I thought that for today, we could do things a little bit differently, and we could approach the first part of our weekly brew as a who, what, where, when, and why of this solar eclipse in Leo, so that we can really make sure to leave no stones unturned as it relates to understanding and unpacking and figuring out what this means for you. And, obviously, we always have to expect the unexpected when it comes to the eclipses, but we also want to be prepared. So let's get into it. Let's start with the who. This eclipse is happening in Leo, and Leo is a fixed fire sign ruled by the sun. Leo is the creator, the performer, the artist, the leader, the romantic, the child who, doesn't wait for you to notice this gorgeous macaroni artwork it made. It makes it, and then it's like, actually, this deserves a spot in the museum being the refrigerator. That Leo will just hang its own damn artwork up and be like, look, it's amazing. It's a masterpiece. Leo rules creativity and courage and confidence and pleasure and celebration and self-expression and our innate need and the inherent purpose of taking up space. Whether or not you have dominant Leo in your chart, Leo for everyone is a reminder that we have to take up space. And because this is a solar eclipse, it means that the sun, which is Leo's ruler, is going to be momentarily obscured by the moon. The moon is going to be passing over the sun. This is always a big deal, but this is an extra big deal when we have a solar eclipse in Leo, because Leo is the sun, right? So for just a few moments, not only does the sun disappear, but there is this interruption in the Leo philosophy of it all, right? In the Leo nature of how it feels to be ruled and of the sun. There is a break in our certainty, in our identity, in our direction, in our confidence, in our selfhood, right? And it's really at that moment that the light vanishes, that we are reminded how essential, how vital, how important it is. Sometimes we don't even realize how much we have been taking our own joy and authenticity and vitality and lust for life, our own je ne sais quoi for granted until we no longer have access to it. And that is what an eclipse does, but especially when that eclipse is in the sign of Leo, when that light comes out, we're like, oh my God, I am so grateful for what I have. I am so grateful for who I am. And I am so grateful that I have the opportunity to create and express myself and be the passionate, bright, and vibrant person that I am. All of us have Leo somewhere in our birth charts. And this eclipse is happening at 20 degrees Leo. The sun and moon are meeting at 20 degrees Leo because a solar eclipse is basically like a new moon on steroids, right? We have a new moon when the sun and moon meet at the same point in the sky. We talked about this last week in our Wednesday episode as we explored the different lunar phases. But wherever that 20-degree point is in your chart, where this eclipse is taking place, where the sun and moon are meeting, is going to be where you see that light go off and on. You see that switch happen, right? That's your solar storm. So go to your birth chart and see where 20 degrees Leo activates it. Also notice any planets or points that you have at or around 20 degrees of Leo or that are making aspects to it, what house it's in, of course. Just find and acknowledge that place in your birth chart. And maybe by now you know that when it comes to pulling up and learning about your birth chart, my recommendation is and has always been an app called Time Passages. And I'm very excited to share with you that I now have a code for you to use on Time Passages. It's TVIP. That's TEAVIP. This will also be available in the show notes for you to reference. And that code is going to give you a month free trial to Time Passages monthly subscription, which I have had since 2012. Time Passages is so amazing for beginners, for experts. Like, I think that they have the cleanest layout that you can look at and work with of any birth chart calculator. And it is a family-owned business started in the 1980s. So use that code TVIP, TEAVIP on Time Passages and locate that 20-degree Leo point in your chart, and that is precisely where the solar eclipse is going to be activating. And let me know in the comments, let me know in your review, 5-star review, where that is for you, what you have there, because that is what is going to be really, really illuminated, temporarily obstructed, and otherwise illuminated this week. Now for the what. Hey, Aliza, what is an eclipse? What actually makes an eclipse different from your old run-of-the-mill new moon or full moon, these lunations that we have every month? Well, honey, eclipses happen because the new moon or full moon is occurring on the nodes of destiny. And if you have listened to the episode from a few weeks ago all about the lunar nodes, the north and south node, you already know that these are really important points in your chart. In astrology, they're not planets or stars. They are these spots in the sky where the moon's orbit intersects with the path of the sun, okay? Astronomically, they are intersections. Astrologically, they're destiny, which is T. And I really think that the nodes are so meaningful as we think about this ongoing, ever-evolving conversation between the past and the future. The south node speaks to what is familiar, what is comfortable, where we have come from, whereas the north node governs and really directs us to the path forward, right? It's our growth, it's our evolution, it's the life that we are blossoming into, right? It's what we are really meant to experience. So when the sun and moon align at these points, the universe opens this portal between where we've been and where we are going, what we know and what we have to learn and experience. And they offer these powerful churnings and turnings. And if we're not on the right path, the eclipses will ensure that we get dragged onto the right path. And eclipses are obviously these like dramatic optical events, right? Like day becomes night during a total solar eclipse when you're on the path of totality. The sun is literally obstructed, right? It gets dark. And eclipses have very similar dramatic impacts on our charts and on our lives. And this is also why I just can't emphasize it enough. Like, do not manifest during eclipses. I love manifesting. I am a manifestation girly. I manifest every new moon and full moon in the Constellation Club and in my private practice too. Yes, I do. But the only time that I stop is during eclipse season because it is good spiritual hygiene to take a break, to halt your manifestation practice during this time. And I know that it might feel like you want to work with this energy, you want to direct it, right? Like you want to get your magic out, but eclipses play by different rules. During an ordinary new moon, you are the one planting the seed. But during a solar eclipse, the universe needs you to see what you need to see. And I know you think you know what you want. You think you know what you need, but you don't. And it is during eclipse season that we get that information. We get that data about what is working and what isn't working that we would not have had access to otherwise. It's when the universe really needs to show us what we need to see. And in that humility and surrender, we stop fighting and pushing and demanding, and we start observing. So eclipse season is an amazing time to practice gratitude. It's an amazing time to step into some very reflective and magical spaces where we're thinking about our life and we're thinking about our choices and we're thinking about time and where we are and all of these like incredible pieces that come together to create our path and our evolution. It's a wonderful time to tune into our growth and our journey, but eclipses are chaotic. Period. And they are chaotic with intention. They are chaotic for a reason, and they can't be manipulated, okay? They don't want to be, they can't be, so don't even think about it, okay? Because often, if we think we know better than the universe, not to sound superstitious, but it can backfire. This eclipse is touching down on August 12th at 1:36 p.m. Eastern, so adjust for your time zone. That's the when of it all. But what's interesting is that eclipses are never these singular one-off events. Eclipses punctuate these long and storied narratives within our life and also within the collective. So this total solar eclipse in Leo is actually the second installment of a 6-part series that's going to take us all the way into 2028. So we're still in the very early days, the beginning of this particular journey. The first eclipse of this series was about 6 months ago. It was on February 17th of this year, 2026, and that was a solar eclipse in Aquarius. So you know what I always say, go back to your photos, go back to your calendar, go back to your emails, go back to your journal. What conversations were unfolding then? What doors were opening? What doors were closing? What felt uncertain? What was shifting? This eclipse that we are stepping into isn't starting a new narrative. It's picking up the thread where we left off. And we are going to see this story continue to unfold all the way through January 2028. So even though we are still in the early days of it and we may not be able to totally define what it is speaking to right now, we're going to be getting more and more information as this 6-part series continues to unfold. And by the end of it, we're going to know what this was the story around. Now, eclipses are part of the nodal cycle, the Saros cycle, which is an 18.5-year long orbit. And that means that every 9 years or so, we are back on the same axis. Axis? Oh my gosh, you guys, I have never heard from so many different people that I pronounce AXIS, axis, wrong. Do you say axis. Listen, like I can't change who I am. I cannot change where I'm from. I cannot change my dialect. So when I say axis, I am so in my head about this now. Oh my God. Okay, let's rewind. We are back on this axis every 9 years or so, okay? So the last time we were on the Leo and Aquarius axis was between 2016 and 2019. So I do want you to think back to what was going on in your life at that time, okay? What were you doing? What was changing? What was beginning? What version of you was emerging? What version of you was starting to, just fade away, right? Like what was your evolution looking like at that time? Because those eclipses were planting seeds that have been growing for nearly a decade, right? And this eclipse is going back to that garden and it's checking on those trees. It's checking on those little beautiful blueberry bushes and being like, what's up with you? What's up with you now? How have you changed? How have you matured? But keep in mind that the nodes in that last instance were positioned differently than they are today. They were actually 180 degrees different than they are today. At that time, the north node of the future, of destiny, of where we're going was in the sign of Leo, and the south node was in Aquarius. But today, the north node is in Aquarius and the south node is in Leo. So it's opposite. It's opposite day, opposite time, opposite experience, right? But that means that the last time that we had eclipses that were really a mirror of where we are now, the last time we had eclipses in this particular configuration was when the orbit began, which means we have to go all the way back to 2007 to 2009. Now listen, I'm not sure who has archives that go back that far, but if you do, there was an eclipse on February 9th, 2009, a solar eclipse in Aquarius at 20 degrees, which is the exact mirror of the eclipse that we are experiencing this week at 20 degrees of Leo, okay? I know that was a long time ago, obviously, but these eclipses are not on a regular lunar cycle. They are on that Saros cycle, that 18 and a half year long cycle. And that's why we can't just think about things in the immediate. We have to think about things as it relates to these broader phases and eras of life, right? Like we're talking about these really wide chapters. We're not just thinking about what is immediately in front of us. And that's also why when we're manifesting, sometimes we're too short-sighted to recognize these bigger themes that are unfolding by way of the eclipses. Okay, now speaking of how eclipses impact and influence the collective, it is also fascinating to me that here in the United States of America, some very important elections coincided with this very, very axis. We had two very important, very monumental presidential elections that coincided with these periods of time. The first was in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected, the first Black president, a very big deal. Also ran a campaign that feels like it was truly now from another time ago, centered around the concept of hope. It was a very long time ago. When I think about that like shepherd fairy imagery, it does feel like I'm conjuring from practically a past life. But something I really want you to hold on to, because this is going to come back around in just a moment, is that Barack Obama is a Leo sun, Gemini moon, Aquarius rising, okay? Hold that for a moment and then consider the fact that the next time that we were back on this axis right after the first eclipse in this Leo and Aquarius story in 2016, we had another very monumental election. It was Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump winning, becoming the president for the first time. Donald Trump, a Gemini sun, Sagittarius moon, born on an eclipse, but also a Leo rising. So listen to this, okay? When the north node of destiny was in Aquarius 18 and a half years ago, we had an Aquarius rising president. And then when the north node of destiny was in Leo, we had a Leo rising president. Someone on YouTube noted this in the comments on one of my videos when I was alluding to it. And I was like, oh my God, T. And also tank. Tank means there are no coincidences, because obviously I've been talking about us being on this very significant cycle with these elections, but I hadn't really stopped to consider the rising sign and the role of the North Node with the rising sign. You can't make this shit up, right? And that leads me to the why of it all. Leo and Aquarius is one of astrology's most important axes. It's the axis of the individual and the collective. It's the axis of the king and the kingdom, of the sun and the stars. I've been ruminating on this so much, thinking about how the sun is also a star. And even as a sun, our sun, the center of our solar system, our singular sensation, we wouldn't be here without it. From another perspective, the sun is just another dot in some other mythological constellation, right? Leo wants us to be the most authentic, most courageous, most bombastic, most sparkly version of ourselves. But the Aquarius side of this equation is asking us to consider, to what end? What are you creating your life for? Who is benefiting from your gifts? How do your unique strengths actually enhance the communities around you? How do you shine within a constellation? And the deeper invitation of this particular eclipse cycle, and yes, even with this solar eclipse in Leo, is that we need to tune into the full spectrum of this story. We aren't here to disappear into the crowd, nor are we here to build kingdoms that revolve around our own egos. We are here to discover what happens when our individual purpose and our collective contributions become one and of the same. And my beautiful community, that's exactly the story that we are writing right now. And of course, here is your journal prompt for the week ahead. How can I stay connected to my light, my radiance, my purpose, even when life feels uncertain? And now, boys and girls, gays and nays, friends and foes? No foes. Friends and hoes, what's up? It's time for us to pull a tarot card. Am I intimidated? Yes, because this tarot card is not just our tarot card of the week. No, sir. It's the tarot card of the solar eclipse in Leo. And the stakes are high. It's a big deal. I don't want to see anything weird. You know what I mean? No funny business from these 78 cards. Something nice. Give me something nice. Give me something that makes me feel good and happy. No heavy shit. Gosh, am I like jinxing us? I don't know. But you know, the tarot is important, right? We got to know what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly of it all. If you are new here, we pull a tarot card every week to see the vibes from a different POV. Am I procrastinating? You bet your bottom dollar I am. I'm scared. Okay, here we go. I'm brave. It is Queen of Swords. We know this diva. It's the Queen of Swords again for us here in the AstroloTea universe, because we pulled this card a month ago. We pulled this card the week of the new moon in Cancer and Barbo's bashful basket. So that's tea, that's tank. There are no coincidences. That's interesting. I feel like AstroloTea as a show, like we pull a lot of swords around here. But Queen of Swords is a card that has to do with us being decisive. It has to do with us being smart and discerning. It has to do with us not getting lost in the sauce, not getting distracted by things as we have to make meaningful and important choices. So because we just pulled this card for the new moon in Cancer, I invite you to look to see what was going on in your life that week at that time. It was the week of my show at Joe's Pub. My Joe's Pub show was on the night of the new moon in Cancer, so it was July 14th. So think about what was going on in your life that week, July 14th, the basket was on July 19th was when it exacted. Like, what were the themes? What were the stories? Because chances are there were perhaps some narratives that are still being considered and still requiring a resolve at this time. Now, if you're like, Aliza, I thought we can't manifest during an eclipse. That's right. But making choices, living functionally within your life is not manifesting. When I say take a break from manifesting, I am talking about like your witchy spells and rituals. I'm not talking about like having hopes and dreams, right? Like, please don't turn that off. That is your spice of life. And it is also very Leo energy coded, right? So think about what was going on a month ago with the new moon in Cancer, what still requires your discernment and how you can still tap into and access that energy of refinement and logic and clarity, even amongst the backdrop of this like very wacky, dacky, chaotic solar eclipse energy, because, we still need you to participate right now, evidently. Queen of Swords, she's back around. We got to pay attention. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into the horoscope of it all. Horoscope. No, it's a poroscope. It's a poroscope. Stay tuned, because I'm going to let you know exactly what to expect or how to expect the unexpected for this week with this eclipse in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Hello, friends. Welcome back. It is time for your personalized horoscope. As always, I want to invite you to listen not just for your sun, no, for your sun, moon, and rising. As I shared with you in the episode where I answered all of your questions, like when I write these horoscopes, they're very channeled. So it's really like the energy from the perspective of that zodiac sign. So whatever zodiac sign feels important and significant in your life, including, your sun, moon, and rising, but also if that's like your Mercury or your Venus, like listen for it all. In fact, my recommendation is set it and forget it. Start at Aries and just cruise through Pisces. Let's get into it right now. Hello, Aries. What a week. What a week. Honey, if it feels like life has been getting a little drab lately, a little predictable, I have good news for you, which is that the chaos is about to roll in. Yes, it is. It is now eclipse season. And this solar eclipse in Leo is not just going rat-a-tat-tat. It's not saying knocky knock. It's saying kick down the door. It's off its hinges now. The eclipse has arrived. Listen, honey, the eclipses are wild cards. They are crazy. They mess up our timelines. They bring in these like unexpected, surprising opportunities. And they also take away things that we thought were going to last. And most importantly, they actually put us on the path that we are supposed to be on, even if it feels like, why would I be on this road when I was incredibly satisfied with where I was before? But during an eclipse, you see things differently, right? It's actually giving Queen of Swords. Like you have a different perspective because you're introduced to different variables and dimensions. So, honey, if things stop going according to plan, maybe congratulations is in order, because that means that maybe the eclipse is helping you get off of the wrong path and onto the right one. For you, this eclipse is activating the area of your chart around creativity and confidence and romance, really like your capacity for joy, like your spice of life. So don't be surprised if unexpected invitations are arriving, or maybe you find yourself having a crush on someone who you were not expecting to have a crush on. Old passions come rip-roaring back in, or you are suddenly thinking like, actually, I'm just going to do this thing, even though I am not prepared to do it. I think I'm ready to get it done. And that is because, hello, it's Leo season. It's a fire sign season. The energy is all about just like roaring. This is also the beginning of a story that you have experienced in some way, shape, or form before, okay? Cast your mind back to the Leo eclipses, the Leo Aquarius eclipses between 2017 and 2019. What was going on in your life then? What was beginning? Who were you becoming? Because those eclipses were planting seeds that really have been growing ever since then. And now we're ready to take a look and see how those little buds have matured. And then even more recently, 6 months ago on February 17th, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius. That was the first one on this new Leo and Aquarius axis, right? That's going to continue till 2028. And that brought out another clue. Something was reaching a breaking point, right? Something was resolving in a culmination. Something was becoming obvious. So look to see what was going on in your life then, because this eclipse is going to pick that up and say, okay, Aries, let's see what you've learned. One thing I know for sure is that by the time this eclipse journey is over in 2028, honey, you are going to be a different person, okay? Life is going to be very clear for you, what you are supposed to be doing and what you are not supposed to be doing. So the opportunities that you are being presented with are probably going to look different than what you imagined you would be presented with. That's okay. That's eclipse magic. The essence of expect the unexpected is really the eclipse season motto. But if we're being honest, Aries, that's also your axiom too. So you get it. Taurus, okay, give me that beautiful, deep bovine breath, because this week is doing a lot, and that means you are going to be feeling a lot too. Some of these things that you are going to be experiencing in these days ahead are going to be your idea, and some of these things are absolutely not going to be your idea, okay? You are going to be dragged into these situations and circumstances, but hey, that's eclipse season for you, baby. And for you, this solar eclipse in Leo is landing in the very bottom of your chart, around home and family and roots, the foundation your life is built upon. Listen, Taurus, I call this region your villain origin story. Every superhero has one. Every Disney princess has one. Every therapist certainly wants to know yours, right? So don't be surprised if there is some unexpected family news or a conversation that you find a little destabilizing, or a realization around something that you have outgrown, whether that be a place or a pattern or a version of yourself that you had thought was integral to your identity. Whatever happens this week is asking you to go further, to look beneath the surface, because when we understand really where we come from, we can understand why we need to go where we need to go. You get it? This is a story that has been years in the making, Taurus. Think back to those Leo and Aquarius eclipses between 2017 and 2019. Where were you living? What were you doing? Because those eclipses were initiating some narratives around belonging and security, the life that you want to be building. Even 6 months ago, on February 17th, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius. That was the first eclipse on this new axis, right? That's going to continue through 2028. What was going on in your life then? 6 months ago, was your focus shifting towards your career, your public life, a different, more visible version of you? It may seem like thinking about your root and thinking about your legacy are totally different, but in fact, they are actually one and of the same, because the life you are building is always going to be shaped by the life that you first experienced. Our ambitions don't appear out of nowhere, Taurus. They are responses, direct responses to our experiences. So by the time this eclipse story reaches its finale, your definition of home and success, both of these areas of life are going to look different. So get ready for some big shifts in the days ahead, Taurus. Eclipse season is always wild. And I know that wild isn't always your preferred mode, but it really is necessary for ensuring that your soul gets to where it needs to go. Hi, Gemini. Happy solar eclipse in Leo. It's eclipse season this week. Yes, yes, yes. We are in the portal. The theme of the week is solar storm and lightning, thunder. It's all around you now. Anything, and I mean anything, can happen. But this, of course, Gemini, this is your specialty. Expect the unexpected, honey. You live for it. You would settle for nothing less. So for you, this solar eclipse in Leo activating communication and learning and ideas and the myriad ways that you process the world around you feels a little exciting, a little dangerous, a little scandalous. Don't be surprised if major news lands on your lap or a strange opportunity arrives through an unexpected conversation Or maybe by way of the same conversation or a totally different one, you realize that you want to pivot, you want to get the hell out of here, you want to explore something that you had no idea that you were interested in, but now you are 120% obsessed with it. And maybe this is a little alarming. Why wouldn't it be? Maybe there's an alarm going off. Gemini, pay attention. There's an alarm. This is one of those weeks where one email, one phone call, one strange encounter in an elevator, scandalous or not scandalous, can really shake up everything in your life and set you on an entirely new path. The solar eclipse is a big deal because it evokes conversations around power. So Gemini, what is your power? I'll tell you, it is discovering that your reality is just a bunch of stories, okay? Life is just a bunch of stories. And the stories that you tell yourself, the stories that shape and inform your life, they aren't set in stone. So the TLDR, Gemini, is that this is the week that you can rewrite your life in whatever way you would like to. And that's T. Of course, any good tale has a rich and layered backstory, okay? The energy now is building on a narrative that has actually been unfolding for many, many years. I want you to think back to those Leo and Aquarius eclipses that started in 2016 and continued through 2019. What were you interested in? What conversations were popping up over and over in your life? And what belief systems were you really structuring your reality around? Those eclipses were asking you to expand your mind before you expanded your world. And that is actually the foundation of this very moment. And even more recently, about 6 months ago on February 17th, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius. That was the first eclipse on this new Leo and Aquarius axis. And that turned your attention towards the bigger picture, those beliefs that you established back then, and that purpose, the philosophy, the meaning that you feel that you can extract from all of those experiences, right? Gemini, I would put money on the fact that even within the past 6 months, even since February, there have been changes in not just your worldview, but also how that worldview shows up through your friendships, through your relationships with your peers, your siblings, your colleagues, your classmates, right? The way that you connect to people is different. By the time this eclipse cycle is over in 2028, you are going to be different because you're going to be thinking differently, right? That's the magic here. You're not simply collecting more information. You are actually becoming someone who lives by way of a different perspective. It's Queen of Swords. So pay attention this week, Gemini, because eclipse season is going to be tucking these life-changing moments into these like seemingly normal encounters, which is giving immersive experience. J'adore. It's giving escape room, but Gemini, we love to see it for you. Bonjour, Cancer. Hello, my darling, my angel, my little sweetheart. This week is coming for you. It's coming for all of us, but let's talk about what this looks like from the crustacean POV. Because, honey, we have a solar eclipse, and that's a really big deal. That means that there's a conversation happening between the sun and the moon this week. And obviously, like the luminaries, it's a big deal, again, for everyone. But for you, eclipses are so major because you, honey, are ruled by the moon. So when the moon does anything, you feel it more pronounced than most people, right? The moon can just like simply shift its phase and you're feeling that shift within you. But now the moon is meeting the sun at the nodes of destiny. The moon is blocking the sun. The moon is literally asserting its dominance. The moon is flexing. The moon is making its big and beautiful presence known in the daytime. It's literally like one-upping the sun. Baby, this is major. Okay, so what does this mean for you? Well, Cancer, this solar eclipse is telling you a story around finances and resources, and most importantly, perhaps, your self-worth. And because eclipses are shocking by nature, this means that yes, Cancer, you might receive some shocking financial news. Obviously, I hope this is a massive windfall, like right into your bank account. It's giving lottery, and not that you suddenly have to pay a massive bill. I hope that it doesn't mean that a stream of income that you deemed steady and reliable suddenly dries up. But Cancer, that could happen. And if that happens, I know that that is hard and scary. But you have to trust the process, because eclipses are all about destiny and ensuring that you are truly on the right path for your soul. So whether you have abundance coming in or abundance seemingly going out, trust that the right abundance is going to find you, that this eclipse is making room for new possibilities and even more prosperity to come pouring into your life, even if it has to rearrange things in order for you to experience that. But Cancer, we've been here before. This isn't the first time that you have encountered this. You know this story because this eclipse is speaking to a lot of the lessons that you moved through the last time we had eclipses in Leo and Aquarius. So Cancer, what was going on in your life between 2017 and 2019? Even earlier, 2016, especially around money and resources and self-worth, these themes. How has your life changed since then? How have you grown? What have you discovered? All of these stories are connected to this like nearly decade-long journey that has been continuing to cultivate the reality that you live in, right? And now you are preparing to start a new chapter in this epic, this odyssey, s'il vous plaît. But even 6 months ago, honey, we had an eclipse on this axis that you need to remember and you need to tune back into. It was on February 17th. It was a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And for you, it illuminated themes of intimacy and vulnerability and sort of like the deeper emotional arcs related to your value. Cancer, the point is that you are now on the path of realizing how valuable and precious you are. And with this eclipse, with whatever happens this week, just trust that nothing can ever take away your intrinsic worth, because that is something that you have and will always have and be supported and protected by for the rest of your life. Ahoy, Leo. Leo, 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 star of the show. Leo, birthday season, Leo. Leo, eclipse season, Leo. Honey, sit down for a second. Or don't. Pace if you need to. Hop up and down on one leg. Whatever you need to do. Move your body. Stand still like a statue. We need to talk. We need to talk because this is such a major week for you. Like, really and truly, okay, Diva? We have a solar eclipse in Leo. Yes, a solar eclipse in your sign. And a quick reminder that during a solar eclipse, the sun gets obstructed. The sun in your sign, the sun, your ruler, obstructed. Very alarming. So eclipses are always a big deal for you, right? But this eclipse in particular is major. In fact, we have not seen a total solar eclipse in Leo since 2017, August 21st, 2017. Quick, what was going on in your life then? What were you doing? Who were you with? What did you care about? I know that that was nearly 10 years ago, but eclipses aren't one and done events, honey. They tell stories that unfold through time. So we have to participate in the story. We have to be aware. 9 years ago, you were going through something major, were you not? Something about your identity, something about your confidence, something about your selfhood. And how do I know? Honey, I am you. And the astrology speaks for itself. Even more recently, we can think about what was going on when we had the first eclipse on this new series, a solar eclipse in Aquarius, on February 17th, 6 months ago. So honey, go back to your calendar, go back to your photos, go to your journal, see what was going on in your life at that time. What was ending, what was beginning, what was starting, who had leverage, who had power, and what happened in the past 6 months that has enabled you to take back some of that power, to find your strength in your autonomy, in your agency, in your creativity, in your purpose, your soul's purpose. Does this all sound like a big deal? Well, it is. It is a big deal. This week is a big deal. This moment is a big deal. These eclipses, which are activating your chart so directly and will be through 2028, it's all a big fucking deal. So Leo, lock in, okay? Do not hold back. Be brave, be courageous, take up space, shine as brightly as you possibly can. Because yes, Diva, Devo, this is your moment. And for a moment, you will also be blocked. That's what happens during an eclipse. And in that moment, when you're blocked, you are going to see, you're going to feel how critical it is that you embody all that you are, all that you want to be, as often, as frequently, as unapologetically as possible. This is a wake-up call. And today, this week, you simply cannot afford to hit snooze. So don't even think about it. Hi, Virgo. Okay, I know what you're doing, you sneaky little devil. You are trying to figure out precisely what is going to happen to you this week, aren't you? You know there's an eclipse. You know that eclipses are a big deal. You know that we say to expect the unexpected, but you're like, not if I can help it. So naturally, you are out there with a magnifying glass looking for clues, making contingency plans, preparing for every possible outcome so nothing, and I mean nothing, catches you off guard. Virgo, I admire it. I respect it. But unfortunately, eclipse season will always have a leg up on you because eclipses are truly wild cards. That's the whole fucking point. And for you, this solar eclipse in Leo is activating the most hidden parts of yourself. I'm talking the unconscious realm, the spiritual terrain, the places that you can't find. You don't know what they are. You don't know where they are. So yeah, expect to feel strange this week. Maybe you're going to be exhausted for no apparent reason. Maybe you're going to have the weirdest, wackiest, most bizarre dreams. And you're like, are these stress dreams or are they prophetic dreams? Maybe you find yourself having some deep psychological breakthroughs and you're like, okay, that's great, but how the hell am I supposed to integrate this? How can I bring this discovery into my life without shattering my life? Virgo, maybe you need to shatter it. Maybe things do need to get a little unhinged. Of course, eclipses are all about narratives that unfold over time. And that means that even though we still have eclipses unfolding on your axis, Virgo and Pisces, which we'll talk about in a few weeks, I want to invite you back to that 2016 to 2019 era of your life. What were you releasing back then? What stories, what chapters were coming to an end? How was your mental health? How did you feel? What was going on in your mind, body, spirit? Even more recently, 6 months ago, on February 17th, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius, which was the first eclipse on this new axis. This new axis that's going to continue through 2028. And I'm sure that that turned your attention towards your routines or your work or your health, your physical body, your daily life. Did it not? Now, these stories around what's going on internally and what's going on externally, they belong together. Because before we can change what we do every day, we need to understand what is actually running the show behind the scenes. It's the stuff in your psyche. Every habit starts as a belief. Think about that. Both the habits that you're proud of and the ones that you have shame around, they're all tied to your belief systems, Virgo. And this is why an internal paradigm shift can have cataclysmic results across every aspect of your life. And by the time this eclipse cycle wraps up in 2028, you are going to have a whole new way of seeing the world and your world, every aspect of your life. So Virgo, pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to the coincidences, which we know tank. There are no coincidences. Pay attention to the things that you're like, that doesn't make sense. Well, I know it doesn't. And I know that making sense of illogical things is a big ask from a Virgo. But that's what reaching this deeper vibration of surrender and spirituality and integration is all about. So you have to trust that process. Coming up, we are pouring out the second half of the zodiac, so stay tuned for your personalized horoscope right after this very quick break. Welcome back, friends. We have the second half of the zodiac to spill, so grab your cup because AstroloTea is hot and fresh and ready for you. Hey, Libra. Maybe this is a little diabolical, but I always think it's funny that people are like, I can't wait for my life to change. When's my life going to change? I need my life to change, until it starts actually changing. And then suddenly it's like, ooh, I didn't mean now. Ooh, I meant next month. Ooh, I meant next year. Ooh, I'm actually not at all ready for this jackhammer to my reality. Thanks, but no thanks. But Libra, eclipses don't negotiate, okay? You can't negotiate with terrorists, right? I'm kidding. Eclipses aren't the enemy. most of the time. They're not the enemy in the long run, but they may feel like the enemy in the moment, especially when they do a massive shakedown of everything that you thought you could trust and rely on. And that is maybe how this week is going to feel for you, Libra. We have a solar eclipse in Leo, and it's activating your hopes and your dreams and your plans for the future. And because of that, this eclipse may manifest as introductions or opportunities that arrive through your network in strange and mysterious and fated ways, which, sounds nice, but it could also manifest as realizing that certain plans are just not going to go the way you had anticipated they would. And this could look like certain hopes and dreams feeling like they are slipping between your fingers. Don't try to catch them. They're melty and sticky and gooey and oozy for a reason. Libra, they're just not relevant anymore. Of course, this story has been unfolding for quite some time, has it not? Think back to those Leo and Aquarius eclipses between 2016 and 2019. Who was entering your life then? Who was exiting your life? What dreams were beginning to take shape? Then think about just 6 months ago, February 17th, the solar eclipse in Aquarius, the first eclipse on this new axis that we're on in Leo and Aquarius that's going to take us all the way through 2028. That shifted your attention again. Expect this week to be a smart and thoughtful continuation of whatever was going on in your life 6 months ago. So Libra, keep yourself open and flexible and adaptable, namely because it's important for you to be receptive to the idea that your path and what inspires you and lights you up is probably changing. And those transformations are not a bad thing. In fact, they're absolutely necessary to ensure that you are living the life that is actually going to fulfill you and not just something that is there to fill the time. That's tea. Hi, Scorpio. Okay, honey, we need to talk about power. You knew it was coming. You knew we needed to talk about this, did you not? I know that you are very comfortable being the person pulling the strings from behind the curtain. It's giving great and powerful Oz. We love it. But the solar eclipse in Leo has other plans for you. The solar eclipse wants you to really step into the light. But wait, what's going on with the light? The moon is blocking the light. The sun is now obstructed. Now it's in shadow. Yes, Scorpio, eclipses are freaky. And they remind us just how meaningful it is to work with the light because when it goes away, it's scary. And this is when we have a little taste of that, which is a slap in the face and a reminder of just how important that frequency of light is. And when I say light, I am referring to all solar things, Scorpio: truth, authenticity, zest, literally your libido, your identity. And for you, this solar eclipse in Leo is activating your career and your public life and your reputation, the legacy that you are building in the world. And you are realizing just how important this is to celebrate, to actually acknowledge and honor. Don't be surprised if there is a major shift at work or an opportunity or an ending that feels like it is the opposite of an opportunity, something about a leadership position, something that you knew you were overqualified for being taken away from you, right? Leo and the energy of this moment is asking you to stand up, be seen, and own what you have accomplished and settle for nothing less than the best. And whether you are enjoying the attention that this eclipse is providing or not, it's kind of besides the point. The point is that you have worked hard for this moment, and now it is your time to step into it. Now, think back to what was going on in your life between 2016 and 2019. That was the last time that we had a long series of eclipses on the Leo and Aquarius axis. What was happening professionally? How were you thinking about your success? What ambitions were taking shape? What was starting? What was ending? Just even think 6 months ago, Scorpio, to the solar eclipse we had in Aquarius on February 17th. It turned your attention towards your foundation, did it not? Now, what's interesting is that these stories are inseparable. We're not building our career in a vacuum. We're building our legacy shaped by what we learned growing up, what we had access to, or what was denied to us. So if things feel like they're starting to shift this week, Scorpio, They are, but don't mistake that for instability. You are recalibrating with intention. And by the time this eclipse cycle reaches its conclusion in 2028, you're going to have an entirely different relationship with success and leadership and what it means to be a 360 baddie, okay? So when opportunity comes a-knocking this week, answer the damn door. And if when you open it, who's on the other side of it looks like, whoa, a chaotic mess of a situation, someone who is doing a full-blown walk of shame into your life, last night's clothes, makeup all over, they're still drunk, well, don't turn them away, but maybe offer them some water and a few Advil, okay? Sometimes, and especially during eclipses, the greatest abundance first is going to appear as chaos, chaos herself. And how you greet that vibration is going to be critically important right now. Hello, Sagittarius. Okay, honey, let me ask you something. What if the thing that you believe with your whole entire chest turns out not to be true? Terrifying, is it not? But also exciting, because if one belief can change, then your whole world can change. And that is the beautiful and freaky thing about eclipses, is that they are not just changing circumstances, they are changing perspective. And to change your perspective changes your reality, and then there's really no going back to how things were before. For you, this solar eclipse is activating that beautiful exploratory instinct that is so Sagittarius coded. It's the part of you that just cannot stop asking questions. You know, the big existential ones. Why am I here? What do I believe in? Where am I going? Don't be surprised if maybe some travel opportunities or some interesting new class opportunities or introductions that really come out of left field come in, enter your life, and start to almost instantaneously rearrange your worldview. Because in an instant, you might realize that you've actually outgrown who you were before. And that piece of you that you thought was intrinsic to your selfhood, it turned out that it was just an outfit. And now it's time to put it in the wash. But wait, hold the phone, Sagittarius, because these eclipses aren't these singular one-off events. They tell stories, and you love stories. And this story stretches us all the way back to 2016. From 2016 to 2019, we had eclipses on the Leo and Aquarius axis. So what adventures were you on back then? What risks were you taking? What truths were you chasing? And then even more recently, just 6 months ago on February 17th, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And that was all about your voice and your conversations and the who, what, when, why of your life. So this week, stay curious, because that is your superpower. And you don't need to have all the answers, but that pursuit of asking questions and asking better and better questions, that is exactly where you should be right now. And by the time this whole eclipse cycle wraps up in 2028, you're going to realize that you weren't searching for answers. You were actually searching for depth. Hi, Capricorn. Quick question. What's your relationship with trust? Not can people trust you? Because, honey, we already know the answer to that, right? You're a Capricorn. You are the emergency contact for half the people in your phone. No, but I'm asking you if you can trust the journey. Can you trust the process that's unfolding, even on the days when it seems like nothing is working out, even on the days where it feels like the universe is literally conspiring against you? I'm not saying the universe is conspiring against you right now, or it has to feel like that this week. But if it does feel like that this week, well, wouldn't you know, it's eclipse season, and there it is. For you, Capricorn, this solar eclipse is activating intimacy and vulnerability and your ability to take a shitty situation and turn it into a powerhouse of an opportunity. So don't be surprised by conversations around money and investments and debt and inheritance and taxes and business partnerships, all of these things that are really heavy-handed, but also require a deeper level of honesty than maybe you were comfortable exploring or actually confronting before. This is an eclipse that exposes what's been hiding underneath the surface. So secrets might come out. Motives might be revealed. Power dynamics might really be shifting, because once you see something clearly, well, that's it, right? You can't unsee it. You have to address it, because now you have that wisdom, you have that insight. Of course, this is part of a bigger narrative in your life. Think back to what was going on between 2016 and 2019, when we had a whole series of eclipses on the Leo and Aquarius axis last? What was transforming? What did you have to let go of? What were you learning about trust and intimacy and what it means to actually be in the process of change? How did that feel back then? Even more recently, just 6 months ago, on February 17th, we had a solar eclipse in Aquarius, the first eclipse on this new axis that's going to continue through 2028. And that was no doubt about finances and values and resources. But now this week, that conversation is expanding. It's broadening. Because before we can understand what we have access to, like what we can share, what we can trade, what's available for some sort of barter, we have to understand what is ours, right? What is actually in our corner. And that is both financial resources, but it's also emotional ones. So whether you feel like right now you have it all or you're still trading in crumbs, this moment is about figuring out how you can turn whatever your landscape is into an abundant one. Not everyone can do it, but Capricorn, I know that you can. So if things feel intense, they are. Eclipses are intense and they're going to expose weaknesses so that you can better enforce them or actually better than that so that you can replace them. And by the time this is over, this journey reaches its conclusion in 2028, your whole relationship around trust and intimacy and vulnerability and abundance, it's going to be transformed and it's going to be transformed for the better. Hi, Aquarius. Well, this is awkward. It's giving, oopsies, I made a major mistake, but now I don't know how to get out of it because that is very much l'essence of having a solar eclipse on your axis in Leo, your opposite sign. We did just have a solar eclipse in your sign 6 months ago, but alas, now the light has changed. It has swung across the sky, and it is your turn to listen. And boy, oh boy, does this eclipse have a lot to say, so be sure you do have your listening ears on. This solar eclipse in Leo is all about your partnerships. It's all about your relationships, whether those are romantic or business or contracts or clients or even rivals, enemies, frenemies. That's tea, Aquarius. Whoever you are in relation to right now is informing your reality. And don't be surprised if people start entering or exiting your life in a way that feels incredibly fated, but also incredibly sharp and incredibly intense. And what of this big mistake? Well, Aquarius, now that we are seeing everything from this 180-degree perspective shift, you are going to realize that certain things that you have planned or decided on or committed to are just not going to work for you anymore because they're not what you want anymore. And while it may be hard to get out of certain agreements, your willingness to accept your change of heart is a critical first step in a process that is going to take time. But also, this isn't the first time that you have faced this. In fact, this story is directly linked to one that started back in 2016, August 18th, 2016, when there was a lunar eclipse in Aquarius. Who were you sharing your life with back then? Who was teaching you how to live your life? Who were you in relation to? Now that you have become more of yourself, significantly more of yourself than you were 9 years ago, you can actually start to consider who actually belongs beside you. We can't choose the right partners or contracts or agreements until we know who we are, truly, really and truly know who we are. And once we do, then we could start reorganizing our life around that very clear sense of self. So this week, Aquarius, pay attention to what is changing. Pay attention to what is challenging you, what is inspiring you, what is frustrating you, and what is empowering you, and what is doing all of that at the same damn time. And keep in mind that we're still really early in this journey, okay? Your relationship with self and your relationship with others, your relationships are going to continue to evolve through these eclipses in your sign, on your axis. And that's why eclipse season always demands that we expect the unexpected, because this week is going to feel unexpected and the breakthroughs you have are going to feel shocking. So buckle up and get ready because you are going to find out some really wild things about yourself. Tea. Pisces, hi Pisces, happy eclipse season, my beautiful little mermaid, merman, fishy friends. For you, this solar eclipse in Leo is illuminating your routines and your work and your health, your everyday life. And you know what we say about eclipses. Yes, they're crazy. They're chaotic. They're absolutely insane. So don't be surprised if your schedule gets completely rearranged. A job changes totally unexpectedly out of the blue, or a new professional opportunity appears out of thin air, or you suddenly realize that the way that you have been living your life isn't sustainable anymore. Your body can't handle it. But wait, Pisces, because there's a lore, there's a mythology, there is a backstory we need to address. Think back to those Leo and Aquarius eclipses that started in 2016 and went through 2019. What was changing in your life back then? What habits were you building? What work were you doing? What has changed since then? Now, Pisces, we still have an eclipse in your sign coming up. The next lunation is going to be a lunar eclipse in Pisces. But right now, I also want you to think to what was going on 6 months ago on February 17th, which was a solar eclipse in Aquarius. And that was the first eclipse on this new axis in Leo and Aquarius, a story that's going to continue through 2028. If you need to go back to the archives, your calendar, your photos, your journal, so be it. But Pisces, I really want you to consider how that eclipse impacted your reality. That eclipse in Aquarius turned your attention and focus inward. So you were probably thinking and feeling what was working on this very deep spiritual level, right? As it related to your happiness, but also your menti H, that's mental health. The life that we experience on the outside is a reflection of what is happening within. Our inner world is our outer world and vice versa. So if something feels out of balance in one realm, Pisces, try to approach it through the opposite. So for example, if your day-to-day feels very lackluster and uninspiring, maybe it's due time to infuse a little whimsy, a little more imagination into your thoughts, into your dreams. Can you start to dream up a better life, Pisces? Because honey, that is always the first step. So Pisces, this week, do not dismiss the little things. Don't ignore the fantasies that just won't leave you alone. Don't brush off those unusual encounters. They're breadcrumbs, and they are helping you find your way Hansel and Gretel style to a better life that feels healthier and happier and more in alignment with who you are supposed to become. And by the time that this eclipse cycle wraps up in 2018, not to mention the eclipse cycle in your sign that is on its way out, your life is going to look different than it does today. And when you look back, you are going to realize that all of these massive big swings started with small, subtle shifts that seemed insignificant in the moment, but ended up actually changing everything. Oh my goodness, that is all for this episode. What did you think? What did you love? How are you feeling about this solar eclipse? Are you excited? Are you scared? A little bit of everything? Me too, honey. Let me know what you think in the comments, and be sure to join me on Wednesday for our tea party. I'll be back on Monday, of course. Wednesday, Monday. You know where to find me. Make sure to tune in always, which means be sure to follow and subscribe and rate and review so that you never, ever, ever miss a brew. I love you. Happy eclipse portal. Here we fucking go.